Hey everyone, welcome to today's show. And in this episode, as promised last week, we're going to get back a little more heavy on the double strategy side. So, what I'm going to cover today is 5 common errors that I see at the club level and why they happen, and then how to fix them. These are all really easy fixes. It's mostly kind of shot selection, choosing how you hit the ball, where you hit the ball, things like that. So this episode was kind of inspired last week. I was chatting with a friend at a league match, and we were talking about a particular player on our team. And this particular player has a big serve, big forehand, great volleys, but he just misses a little bit too much. And we said that we were kind of chatting and decided, if this player would play with like 65% or 70% of the kind of power that they try to hit with, they would probably be a full half point higher on the NTRP or USTA scale. They would be a significantly better player. And I thought more about that, and I think this probably applies to somewhere in the realm of like 20 to 30% of most or of all club level USTA level doubles players. All the time I will play people who have a bigger serve than me, a bigger forehand, better volleys. They have better technique. In singles, they would wipe me off the court. If a coach fed balls to both of us, you would look at both of us and you'd say, oh, the other player's better. But then we get out there in the doubles match and they just make too many errors because they're going for too much on a lot of these shots. So I think another way to think about this, and I'm going to cover the 5 of the most common errors that I see in this situation, but another way to think about this is if you're playing like a video game, right? And if you've ever played, I don't think there's really any good tennis video games, but if you've ever played like an NBA basketball video game or a football or soccer video game, each player has their own stats. And if you can imagine you're a video game tennis player, you have a score for control, for power, for consistency, maybe for spin, for movement. And you might have scores for strokes like serve, return, ground strokes, volleys, and so on. And, for example, I might be like an 8 for control, a 6 for power, 8 for consistency, a 7 for spin, a 7 for movement. Serve might be down around a 5, and so on. So what I want you to think about is like if you were to rate yourself in all these different areas. Where are you excelling and where are you struggling? And how can you kind of balance that out? And the type of player I'm talking about today that I think will cover about 20 to 30% of people listening to the show is the type of player who has a power level of like a 9 or a 10. And this is, of course, relative to your skill level. So if you're like a 3-0 player, then your power level would be relative to other 3-0 players. But regardless, the type of player I'm talking about today is a power level of maybe like a 10, and then their control level might be like a 5 or something. And if that's you, think about next time you're on the court, can you play at 65% power and still be just as effective? Certainly you won't hit as many winners, but you'll probably force a lot more errors. And what I'm about to share are 5 times that I feel like most players, whether you're this type of player or not, need to be more consistent and really focus on not missing and setting up that next shot. So we're going to go 1 through 5 here. This shouldn't take too long, but these are really things to focus on. And I want you to think about your own game and how each one might apply to you and what you do in each of these situations. So the first one is the serve. We always start with the serve. It's arguably the most important shot in tennis and in doubles. And The mistake I see is so many players who just go for too much on their serve in doubles. This is something I've talked about in the past. In singles, it's okay to go for a little more. Your first serve percentage can be around 60%. In doubles, you really want it to be up close to 70% because the opponent on the return side has a lot more pressure in doubles to get the ball by your partner at the net. So if you're the type of player who is trying to hit bomb serves all the time and really focused on pace instead of placement, think about that next time you get out there. Try to serve at 65, 70%. Focus on spinning the ball in if you have that capability, and really placing it, into the corners of the box or into the body on the particular side that you want to, based on the opponent, and focus on making a high percentage of first serves, because this giving opponents a lot of second serve looks in a given service game is one of the easiest ways to get broken. Obviously, double faulting is a little bit worse, but it's one of the most common ways to get broken that I see other than double faulting. And of course, if you're missing a lot of first serves, you're much more likely to double fault anyways. So that's no good as well. And then for the rest of you who don't do this, think about it in pressure moments and especially in tiebreakers. This is something I've tried to focus on. I'm not somebody who goes for a lot on their serve, but I've found that a lot of, if I get to a 10-point tiebreaker for a third set or something, a lot of those tiebreakers when I lose, I'll miss first serves. Maybe I'll only make 1 out of 4 during the tiebreaker, or 1 out of 5, or 2 out of 6, or something like that. So focus even more so on making a high percentage of first serves in tiebreakers, spinning that ball into a high percentage location. So that might be for right-handed players into the deep forehand corner in the deuce court. In the ad court, it might just be a body serve in the middle of the box, focusing on depth. Or you can go to that deep corner on the backhand side and the ad side. But regardless, really think about placement and consistency on that first serve if you get into those pressure moments and tiebreakers. So number 2, for these 5 times where club level players are missing too much, and this is probably one of my favorites. I think this one and number 4 are probably my 2 favorites. But number 2 is 2 to 3 ball cross-court rallies. Now, this kind of sounds general, right? Don't miss in your cross-court rally. But what I mean is if you're serving or returning and you get into a cross-court rally, this can apply to the deuce or ad side. What I see a lot of players do is bail out of the rally early in one of 2 ways. They either keep trying to hit harder because you hit a shot, the ball came back, you hit another cross-court shot, the ball came back again, and you're sitting there thinking, okay, whatever I'm doing is not working because we're still in this point, so I need to hit harder. When in reality, the first person that tries to do this and tries to hit harder typically is going to make an error and lose the point. So if you're stuck in a neutral cross-court rally, just continue with the cross-court solid balls until your net player has an opportunity to make a move or until the other player makes the mistake. The other way I see people try to bail out of these rallies too often and make errors or play themselves out of the point is obviously hitting down the line. So you can hit down the line going for the all-out winner, and in that case, you might hit harder and hit down the line, which is a really tough combo to be consistent on. Or you might hit down the line and the net player hits a volley for a winner through the middle or a drop shot or whatever it may be. So think about those cross-court rallies, and the way that when I'm out there playing, the way that I think about it is, you have to think about how aggressive the opposing net player is versus your own. And then also, is this cross-court rally a good matchup for me? Now, if I'm being, a little lazier on a particular day, I will sit back at the baseline and rally cross-court. Personally, if I hit 1 or 2 balls from the baseline, I should be moving forward to get to the net, especially if the opponent is a better baseliner than me. If they're going to win that cross-court rally most of the time, then I kind of do want to avoid it, and you have to get out of that rally. But hitting down the line and hitting harder are two ways that I would not recommend getting out of that cross-court rally if it is a bad matchup. So better options would be if you do have an opportunity to lob down the line, especially on the deuce side, it can be a little more effective. That can be okay. Have your partner cross or poach on the first opportunity that they see. If they see a ball land kind of deep in the court, they should go ahead and move to force the opponent to go down the line or to get a volley themselves, or just try to get to the net when you can. Hit the ball a little bit higher over the net with a little more spin and come in behind it and apply some pressure to that opponent. But those 2 to 3 ball cross-court rallies, again, just because the ball's coming back doesn't mean we need to hit with more pace or bail the opponents out by going down the line too often and making too many errors. So the third time that I see a lot of players missing and really making a shot selection error here, it's similar to the cross-court rallies, but it's when it's on short, wide balls. So it's when you're in maybe a cross-court rally or the opponent hits a volley that's kind of angled off the court, and you might have a short forehand in the deuce court, outside of the double alley. And I see this most often when the ball drops a little bit. So when it gets down around your waist or your knees, a lot of players will try to hit the kind of down the line, arcing, Nadal type bending forehand that dips into the doubles alley for a winner. And they'll make it 1 out of 5 times, but in general, it's just not a good strategy. And depending on your skill level, even if the ball is up around your shoulder and it's a short ball and it's a nice approach shot, even a lot of those are really just not great to go down the line on. So next time you are out there playing in a match and you get a short ball, rather than thinking about ending the point on that shot, think about how to either force an error or just set up the next ball. Because at that point, you're on offense, you're ahead in the point, and there's no reason to bail out the other team by trying to hit some high-paced, down-the-line shot that you might only make 1 or 2 out of 5 times. Instead, hit a high-percentage shot that you'll make 5 out of 5 times, maybe at the opponent's backhand volley or at the person at the baseline to push them back, and then go ahead and approach the net and get ready for that next volley. That'll be a lot more high percentage than hitting your approach shot down the line for a winner. So the fourth time I want you to really focus on high percentage tennis is on volleys at the net, and specifically the volley I'm talking about is the inside out volley. So this is going to be a little bit to visualize, but bear with me here. So most coaches will teach you, if you poach or if you get a volley, hit it at the opposing net player, right? They don't have any time to react to it, so you'll force an error or it'll just go right by them, which in some scenarios that is true. That's absolutely true. But what I see a lot of players do is try to hit it at that opposing net player at all costs, and they end up missing the volley. So one example of this is if you're, and the most common example that I see is if you're at the net and your partner is in a cross-court rally, or maybe they're serving on the ad side. So the returner is across from you in the ad court. You have a backhand volley in the middle, and they hit a return or hit a ground stroke, and it comes to your backhand volley, and you try to hit it inside out into the deuce court at the net player's feet. Now, that is a really, the inside out backhand volley is one of the more difficult volleys in tennis. The inside out forehand volley is pretty tough too. So what I want you to think about is instead of hitting that inside out, unless you're right on top of the net and it's a really slow ball and it's super easy, hit that back to that baseline player. And what can be even better is if you have this backhand volley a little bit closer to the center, the middle net strap, work on the short backhand cross-court angle volley. And you can hit that ball short, kind of behind the returner or the opposing baseline player in the ad court. And typically they're not going to be able to get to that shot. And if they do, they have a running short backhand in the ad court. All this stuff applies to the deuce court as well. A volley that I've added to my game over the last 2 or 3 years is the short kind of drop shot angle forehand volley from the deuce court. Most of the time when I poach now, I'm not hitting that forehand volley at the opposing net player. Instead, I'm just hitting it short and cross court. And almost every single time, the opposing baseline player or returner cannot get to it. It's just a short angle. The opposing net player can't get over there to get to it. It's too short for the opposing baseline player to get up to. And it's a much higher percentage volley for me because I'm hitting it across my body, which is a much easier volley. So I rarely miss it. Whereas if I go at that net player, I'm hitting it inside out. I'm changing the direction of the ball. And I'll often miss that one either in the net or I can sail it long if it's kind of a stretch volley. So it's a lot more difficult. So focus on, unless you have a really easy kind of slow ball that's high over the net, most volleys, just hit them across your body and focus on just making them rather than trying to force hit a winner on an inside out volley or force the ball at the opposing net player. Focus on those high percentage shots until you get that one that you can actually put away. So the fifth time I see a lot of errors at the club level are on transition volleys, especially kind of around the service line is the most common. So this is very similar to the short balls, the approach shots, the short wide balls. A lot of people on these transition volleys, a lot of people try to hit winners on these or hit with more power. They feel like because they're closer in and maybe the volley's a high volley up around their shoulder, they should be able to really smash it and hit with a ton of pace. And similar to the inside out volleys, what I think the smartest play here on these transition volleys is to hit the volley across your body if you can, and just play it to the baseline player. Use it as an opportunity to transition to the net and continue to apply pressure. And again, this is another scenario where you're really ahead in the point. The opponent is on defense. If you have a transition volley, that means you're moving forward to get to the net with your partner, and that's going to put you in a good position. So do not bail out the other team with an error or by just trying to go for too much. So typically on these, what I like to do is just play it back cross court to the opposing player, to the opposing baseline player. In the ad court, I do like to get it to their backhand because I would rather them try to hit a backhand passing shot than forehand. In the deuce court, it's a little more difficult to get it to their backhand if the opposing net player is pretty aggressive. So if they're pretty timid, I'll still try to go to the backhand. If they're pretty aggressive, then I will hit more of kind of a short angle on these or just hit with a lot of depth. So even if they do hit a really hard, good passing shot with their forehand, if they're hitting it from several feet behind the baseline, my partner and I are going to have time to get to the ball rather than if they hit kind of a ball inside the baseline. That's going to take away our time that we have to react. So those are the options for the deuce and ad courts. But again, just focus on hitting a solid, we talked about technique on these transition volleys with Abby Spears a few weeks ago, but focus on, a short backswing, don't overhit it, and just hit a solid volley to make the opponents still beat you because, again, you're really ahead in the point here. So if you have any questions on any of this, you can always reach out to me, Will at thetennistribe.com. And hopefully this helped you. I really think that, probably 20 to 30% of you are probably trying to hit the ball too hard most of the time. And I think, if you're a 4-0 player and this describes you, if you can play at 65, 70% power and be a little more consistent, I think that's probably the difference between 4-0 and 4-5 for that type of player. Or if you're a 3-0, you could get up to 3-5 and so on. So really being more consistent is the thing to focus on, or the key takeaway in this episode, and playing with that kind of 65 to 75% power so that you can place the ball better and be a little bit more consistent. So thanks everyone for listening, and I will talk to you in the next episode. If you're a doubles player, you'll love our weekly doubles newsletter. Every Thursday, we send you doubles tips and strategies to help you improve your game and become a smarter player. When you sign up, you'll get a free 10-page guide on how to play with more confidence and dominate at the net in doubles. You can go to thetennistribe.com to sign up now.